Now, let's start from here. He went to the party's headquarters, as usual, to perhaps perform his work, but it ended up that his car was smashed by some people who were not happy. We were also told that he was booed at after he left a meeting of the steering committee, telling them that he has a court statement asking that that meeting cannot be heard. The party says it is investigating what might have ended up in the car of the secretary of a party being smashed. Let's watch this.
General Secretary of NPP Kwabena Ejapong had the back screen of his four-wheel drive damaged at the party headquarters during a steering committee meeting. Deputy Communication Director Perry Okijetu said Kwabena Ejapong had earlier notified members of an application for an interlocutory injunction against holding the meeting. Word had, however, gone out to the media that the General Secretary had served an injunction to stop the steering committee meeting, and that led to the attack.
People see or read a lot of meaning into the actions and inactions of almost everybody in this party, and I think this resulted in someone throwing a stone. It hit the back screen of the vehicle on the side, and it cracked on the side. The General Secretary went back upstairs and drew the attention of his colleagues who were in the steering committee meeting. Some of them came down to try and sympathize with him whilst looking around for who, actually threw the stone.
Deputy Communication Director of NPP, Perry Okijetu, says the party leadership is disturbed about the development.
An investigation will be instituted into what happened, and whoever is found to be the perpetrator will be punished. It must be noted that as at the time the general vehicle drove away in the vehicle, the screen was still intact. Subsequently, we've seen pictures where the entire screen has been destroyed. That did not happen at the party headquarters.
Meanwhile, the party in a statement has condemned the attack.
And of course, the biggest news across the country and beyond today. Let's stay on the phone lines because we'll stay with this particular issue. Dr. Evans Agredako is a senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana. He just joined me on the phone lines. Dr. Agredako, we're grateful you stayed there for us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bright.
And for me, getting to where we are with the NPP is indeed a sad situation, particularly on the fact that what we need is an opposition party that can keep the government on its toes. Now, the infighting is simply getting chaotic. How would you describe what just happened today?
Right. Thank you very much. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and I indicated some time ago that if the party is not able to get the house in order, some of these cleavages will deepen, and that will continue to undermine the effort of the party. First and foremost, as you said, to be a loyal opposition, meaning they are opposition, but they are still loyal to the state, and they are conscious of how the state is going to be governed, and therefore they will contribute effectively towards good governance. They must put governments on its toes and so on, and offer constructive criticisms here and there, so that at least the ruling NDC will know that once you have a very, a viable opposition and a very viable opposition for that matter, you decide to disregard, some very important inputs they make into policy making, among others, into general governance, situation within the state at your own peril as a party. And you see that, collectively it inures to the benefit of all the people, the citizens. Normally, if we have a very good opposition, government set up all very well. Government really will set up. Unless the government really is not really interested in maintaining political power. Otherwise, they will set up. And so it's a very important thing. But if you look at the cleavages and this accusations and the counter accusations and attacks here and there, it simply demonstrates lack of unity of purpose. I don't think that the functionaries are oblivious of the key responsibility that holds on the party, as a very important party within the state, and continue to behave as though they don't have any major focus. The party will have to organize itself. Don't forget that you are coming face to face with a ruling NDC, which is poised more than ever before, also to maintain power. And of course, not just the NDC, you're also coming to face with an incumbent president. And in Africa, it's not very easy to defeat an incumbent person, an incumbent president. Those who have been able to defeat a certain far in between, and therefore you have a Herculean task. So I'm a bit surprised that with all these incumbents' advantage and the fact that usually the ruling president is a top dog, and therefore all others are underdogs. The party is still down this line of self-destruction and engaging in all kinds of what I call anomic behavior, which will not yield any positive dividend for the party, and then those who support the party, and of course those who believe in multi-party democracy. Yeah.
Okay, let us help the NPP to perhaps put it house in order. Let's talk more about recommendations. How do they resolve this? Let's begin from here. Could they have avoided the whole debacle of suspending the chairman? Let's talk more about recommendations to get the party back on its feet. Could they have avoided that?
We indicated earlier on when these calls started coming through that the party and the general secretary and the chairman ought to be suspended. Some of us argue that the party was pressing what I call the panic button. And when you press the panic button, if you are not careful, you engage in what I call a comedy of errors. Unfortunately, the party could not take a cue from some of the suggestions some of us made. And of course, we had to go down this road. Sometimes important that you underscore the role that certain critical actors will play within a particular political party. In as much as you expect that the party hierarchy will abide by the general rules and regulations, individual actors within the party must themselves observe certain key procedures within the party. Organizational norms or party norms are critical towards the unity. So if you're an individual actor in there, don't forget that no individual is indispensable. If the party really will want to dispense with your services, they could easily do that and then close their ranks and so on. So let's say that they are where they are. They've been able to, or they couldn't hold the pieces together, and therefore they had to do away with the chairman. What you do is, how do you manage what I call this almost like a separatist group? Group that is prepared to maintain a lot of disunity. Normally, when you are dealing with a deposed ruler, you are literally coming face to face with the supporters fundamentally, and this is not a recent phenomenon. It's something which has been happening throughout history, and that's why Niccolo Machiavelli said that one of the groups that you have to manage whenever you are dealing with this is what you call the key supporters of the deposed ruler. What do? You need to manage them. How do you manage them? You need to be able to explain the benefit that they seek to derive by forging a united front, rather than just pursuing the agenda, a parochial or even the personal interest of the person who is no longer in power, or the post chairman. And doing that, you need all hands on deck. And what do? Human beings are utility maximizers. We maximize pleasure and minimize pain. So if you are able to explain to this rank and file of, let's say, the supporters, that they stand to benefit from maintaining a certain level of leverage within the party, and then helping the party to capture political power. And then, of course, when you are able to capture political power, Then what Machiavelli says, the power and what power brings, distribution of the national resource, distribution of the positions among others, the party will stand to benefit, or the rank and file will stand to benefit. You are likely to break their front. And then, of course, you have some others who say that, okay, the leader is gone, but there's a general, or there's a overall benefit that we stand to gain by forging a unity or united front. So let's rally behind the party. That's one. The other bit is you have very disruptive group who will say that, well, damn the consequences. They are not prepared to follow, what the party will say, and that is where you have to apply, the what you call the whip within the party hierarchy for them to conform. So it's a carrot and stick arrangement, basically, rewards and punishment, basically. And if you are not able to do that, then the group will then go haywire. That's what we are increasingly witnessing, and I believe strongly that if the party is conscious of maintaining any serious posture as a very credible alternative in any elections, then they must quickly deal with this group so they can continue to stay focused. As I said, first continue to put government on their toes, and then subsequently present themselves as a viable alternative in any election. Of course, 2016 being an immediate one that they will be looking at. Yes.
Dr. Agredako, I'm grateful for your time tonight. He's a senior lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, talking to me about the NPP issue. Now, let's stay on that. Now, some 3 members of the party are in court. Now, what do they go there to do? They are asking that Mr. Freddie Blee should not be allowed by the court to act as a chairman of the party. Now, let's watch this. We'll come back to the studio.
29 others, including NPP presidential aspirant Nana Akufo-Addo, former President John Agyekum Kufuor, acting chairman Freddie Blee, chairman of the Council of Elders C.K. Tedam, F.F. Anto, and minority leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu have been sued by some 3 party members. The 3 members who filed the suit are Emmanuel Tweneboa-Kodua, Stephen Owusu, and Joseph Opombwedi. The 3 members are also seeking to restrain the acting chairman Freddie Blee from calling a meeting without Paul Afoko. Paul Afoko has challenged his suspension, saying the Constitution does not mandate the National Executive Committee to take such an action. His lawyer also questioned the procedure and described the suspension as illegal.
Great. So that was a lawsuit that is sought or seeking to get leadership of the party to act and stop Mr. Freddie Blee from acting as the chairman of the party. Now, in the studio is a lawyer for the concerned membership of the NPP. That's how I want to describe him. He's a lawyer for the concerned members who are in court. Mr. Martin Kweku is right with me here in the studio. Martin, good evening. Good evening. I hope you're doing great.
Yes.
I'm sure it's been a battle today.
I tell you. Yes, yes.
Quite tough.
Yes, very tough. But justice will prevail.
Justice will prevail.
And my clients are very much confident that the right thing will be done, that the rule of law and justice will really prevail.
So the party's steering committee held the meeting despite the suit.
That's correct. Shamefully so. Because in law, even if you don't file an application for injunction, to the extent that you filed a suit, seeking to set aside the decision of the NEC and all those things, that alone is sufficient to stop the party from holding any such meetings. Because you see, it is still our law that any conduct at all which casts a negative slur on the administration of justice is contempt, or in law we just say cause prejudice to the case. It's contempt of court. So the suit we filed alone is even sufficient for NPP to stop holding these steering committee meetings and other meetings that should properly be convened by Mr. Afoko. But to make the case stronger, we have specifically applied for an injunction. You see, the injunction, there are 2. One was filed last Friday, and then one today. And served, today's own, especially today's own, was served before the proceedings of the meeting began. So there was no way.
And the General Secretary affirmed he received the
That's correct. And so once the General Secretary had been served, it means that NPP had been served. So under our laws, there was no way that legally any such meeting could be held. So to that extent, my clients have instructed me, we will be mounting an action in contempt, okay, to attach them for contempt of court, because this conduct is a total breach of our laws. It flies in the face of the law and brings the administration of justice into disrepute.
Perhaps it can, the NPP members, I heard a national organizer say that, well, the General Secretary received his sermons, if that is how it will be called, but the others did not. Is that to say that perhaps the party can go ahead and hold that meeting?
That's not correct. You see, as I mentioned, the General Secretary, okay, is the secretary of the party. Okay, so in service, when it comes to serving a political party, service on the General Secretary is service on the whole party. Service on the General Secretary is service on the whole party. So once the General Secretary received it and duly informed them, they were supposed to stop. They were supposed to stop. And as such, they cannot be excused. So to say that some other members were not served is no answer in law at all. Even let me tell you, even before, even if there's an action in court and a party has not been served, he can still be cited in
contempt.
Yes. The only difference is that once he doesn't know about the action, the punishment is usually lighter. But thankfully, we have tape from what he has told us. It means that Mr. Japon showed them the process that he had been served.
And left the meeting
very well.
Came there and told them that this is the issue, and so we can't go on with this meeting.
Good.
And left the meeting.
Good. So that is even stronger evidence, because Mr. Japon is a secretary. So when secretary has shown you that I've been served, and you want to ignore it and go ahead with your meeting, okay, we'll have our day in court. Then we will see.
Perhaps should the party decide to sit down with the legal team of these members who are in court? Is that possible from where we've got to now? They went and the meeting was held. Can the party, perhaps after thinking over it tonight, say that the legal team of the three members who are in court, can we meet tomorrow, especially when the suit has been filed and it is now in the bosom of the court?
Okay, yes, we welcome it. In actual fact, that should have been how this case should have been handled from the beginning, okay? That they shouldn't have gone ahead with these decisions against Mr. Fuku because they are ill-timed. So if the party now sees that the way Ghanaians are rising against these very egregious violations of the constitution of the NPP and heightened security is causing in the country, if the party needs wisdom, thinks that, look, we should cease fire, we can have a political settlement to this. Yes, my clients are ready. We can.
So legally it can be done?
Yes, it can be done.
Even though you took the suit from court to serve the party?
Yes.
You can go back to court and ask the court to hold on,
yes,
and that you are dealing with the party to see how you can arrive at an agreement.
That's correct. Yes, we call it an amicable settlement. So the court will give us some time to go and settle it. That will be better. It will be better in the interest of their party. That this uproar, you see now Ghanaians are, a lot of, they are subjecting their own party to what? Ridicule. Showing that they are not even prepared. Okay? So it will be better. It shows that if they really want the interest of their party, they would call us and say, look, let's settle this. Look, we will reverse the decision of NEC and then have Mr. Afoku back in office, and then there will be peace.
Shouldn't the legal team of these three members have dealt with the internal party mechanisms for resolving this before taking this legal action?
That is usually the rule, but as you would hear, even you don't need to be a lawyer, you hear that to every rule there are exceptions. To every rule there are exceptions. Amongst one of the exceptions is that when it comes to exhausting local remedies, you see, if the matter is of a huge public interest and involves interpretation, okay, interpretation on a point of law, you don't need to exhaust the local remedies. You see, there's a huge public interest. Don't forget there are Supreme Court decisions, Yebi and Avalifu versus the Republic, which show that political party matters are matters of public interest.
Because you're a political organization,
Yes.
you're a public organization.
That's correct, yes. And I could go on and cite. So from our jurisprudence, when it comes to political parties, this is a huge exception, especially in this context. Yes, so, and especially as you'd see, this suit came in because at the time my clients got to know there was no effective way that they could have addressed this issue internally. No. On the Friday morning, there was no way. So, and there are other exceptions that we can advance. We've advanced all those in our statement of case before the court. Okay? So, when the action is also patently illegal, okay, amounting to a lack of jurisdiction. So, under these grounds, you know what happened? Mr. Freddie Blay convened the meeting for Friday morning, which is contrary to the Constitution. You see, the established law is that even if the National Executive Committee wants to hold a meeting to discuss the purported report, which we shall return to, the law states that to the extent that the chairman is still in office, they have to ask him to convene the meeting for them to discuss the report. Yes, so he must convene. Convening means, of course, send notices so that people will gather. When they gather and do the introductions, then you step out so that they can go ahead and discuss. Please, and in their party, it's happened before. Understand when Haruna Esoku's case came? Yes, when they wanted to discuss, he had to convene the meeting, and then he got up, recused himself.
Because the argument was that Mr. Afoko could not have organized a meeting that was supposed to announce his suspension.
Oh, that's not true. In law, it happens a lot. It happens a lot, even in respect of our own Chief Justice. We've had battles from 1968. Lawyers will tell you there's a case called Kwasi Aidan versus Akufo-Addo. Okay, we also have Ejechum versus Attorney General. We have Kunyehia versus Acha. All these authorities say that, look, when the Constitution gives you a duty, it's your prerogative to perform a certain duty, especially in this instance, convening a meeting, and the instance of the Chief Justice empaneling justice to deal with a case. If you are the subject of that case, you must still empanel the justices.
And in then you stay out.
Yes. We have, as for that path, it's well trodden now. As I say, starting from 1968, there are a number of decisions. So in this case, and even within the NPP itself, my understanding is that when Chairman Isuku's case came up, he convened the meeting and then recused himself. As we sit here right now, Mr. Delson Bright, nobody came to Mr. Fuku and requested that he convenes this meeting. If they had and he had refused, that would have been another matter. But nobody did. And so this is an egregious violation of the Constitution. The makers of the Constitution knew that there may be disputes, and yet they still stated that the chairman shall convene. If they wanted that in the event that the chairman is the subject of the meeting, he should not convene it, my brother, they would have found words to state it. They would have found words, because it's the same Constitution that has stated that, I mean, if somebody commits any misconduct, how he should be dealt with, and the rest. So, and even the chairman himself, amongst others, he provides that there are two fora. He should be reported to the National Council. And then apart from that, if you want to remove him, you should organize an extraordinary delegates congress. Okay? And in all these instances, since it is the chairman who convenes this meeting, if the makers of their constitution intended that the chairman shouldn't exercise that right, they would have stated so expressly. In the absence of that, we will use the decided cases in our courts to follow that. In this case, Mr. Afoko retains the right to convene the meeting.
I come back for us to look at the legal ramifications of Mr. Freddie Blay sitting as a chair of a meeting that removed one person and made him the leader of an organization or a committee, let me put it that way. But now what he have filed is a suit against any meeting. Is that the only thing you have filed?
No, what we have is that we have the writ itself, which we're saying that they should, declare that meeting itself null and void.
That is a meeting that was held today by the steering committee.
Even before today, starting from Friday's meeting, the one that was made. declare the meeting null and void, the decision null and void, and then an injunction to prevent such meetings from taking place.
Okay, so it means that, can I conclude that you have two suits?
No, it is usually one suit.
It is one.
Yes, and then because the suit itself takes a long while, court matters takes a while to be resolved. Whilst the suit is pending, you can apply to the court for interim measures.
Great.
The interim measures are the two injunction applications
that you're
filed.
asking that the meeting should not be held.
Yes,
so
no meetings.
The lay man on the street can say that you are challenging the suspension of Mr. Afoku.
That's correct. That's the pith of the action.
Okay, and apart from that, you are saying that you're asking that certain action should not be taken before that thing is issue is held in court. But do you have any idea when the substantive issue will be held in court?
No, as for the substantive issue, usually we have no control. On average, it will take 2 years.
For you to get information.
Yes.
Martin, just put your thought together. Hold on. Let me speak to Mr. Hakim Owusu-Agyeman. He is a member of the NEC of the NPP. He's just joined this discussion. And quickly, I'm sure he was in that meeting that took the decision to suspend Chairman Afoku. Mr. Owusu-Agyeman, I'm grateful for your time tonight.
Let's be correct once. Good evening, sir.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead.
I think your producer, Kwablan Kluche, called me, so I didn't come out into the discussion.
Great.
So go ahead.
Okay.
I thought I should make that point clearly.
Thanks so much. My producer called you to be in the discussion. We're grateful that you agreed to speak to us. So let's start from here. That, first of all, the meeting to suspend Mr. Afoku, according to the party's constitution, isn't legal. What do you think about that?
I think that this issue should have now gone to bed. I didn't tune in. I just got home, so I was not really following the issue. But that's one point that the lawyers are refusing to understand, is that the disciplinary committee is to work, quote unquote, with natural justice. In that instance, the report said that in as much as the chairman is the subject matter of the discussions, then they thought that if he would not call the meeting, then the meeting should be called by the first vice national chairman. It was clearly stated in bold letters. Then subsequently, there was a letter again from the committee addressed directly to the first vice chairman, asking him to call the meeting so that we can discuss the report. So based on that, he called the meeting. When we arrived at the scene of the meeting, a motion was moved in reaction to the letter from the chairman of the disciplinary committee that this is what the committee is suggesting. Are you people in favor of it or not? A vote was taken and it was unanimous. It was only after that vote that the first vice chairman moved into the chairman's chair to conduct the proceedings, after which Reverend Dr. Asante NP and the rest presented the report and subsequently reduced. So if you have to operate within the bounds of natural justice, then quite obviously, not being a lawyer, we understood that the chairman cannot sit on an issue where he was the subject matter of the discussion. Indeed, when these things are being done, sometimes people even are excused. So we understood it perfectly to be legal. In as much as a resolution was taken by the National Executive Committee, I don't think anybody has stressed that point. And then there was this letter specifically asking the vice chairman to convened the meeting and the report, it was legally constituted. Yes, it says that the chairman convenes the National Executive Committee, Steering Committee, and the National Council, and the conference. But in this instance, natural justice demands that, in as much as he was a subject matter, quite obviously, as the lawyer, he had to, even if he were there, he would have had to excuse himself and not take the chair, because he was directly the subject matter. That is all that must be clarified. And so, as far as I am concerned, with my long experience in the party, such a situation has not arisen. But when it did arise, we did look at the situation and then decided to proceed. And the rest is history.
Great.
So I think that point, once one point is understood, then there can be no argument about illegality. There was a resolution. There was also the report of the committee, as well as the letter. So you are not going to say that the chairman must come and preside over an issue which he was the subject matter.
Okay.
I don't get it.
Mr. Osuajiman, the party's constitution is very clear on this, that the chairman is supposed to organize meetings of the NEC. Now, the NPP itself has a precedent to fall on, where we're told that Mr. Haruna Seku had to organize a meeting that took a decision on him. He organized the meeting and then recused himself from that meeting. Are you suggesting that Mr. Afoko was approached to organize this meeting and he refused or failed to, and so the next person in command decided to go ahead?
Chief, that issue was raised. That was the very first issue raised. And our clearest understanding was that they could not reach the chairman. And in view of the agency, so all these have got timelines. So the vice chairman decided to proceed as he has been so authorized to do. But then we had to then reinforce the authorization. The issue that you refer to in the first instance are not between the same base and the same parallels. They are not.
How?
So sometimes, say natural justice. And that is why, for example, the National Council of Elders, when they produce their own complaint, this same lawyer said, well, in as much as two of your members were not even at the meeting when the decision was taken, are members of your council, they cannot sit in judgment of this. So that one was in a way put in abeyance, was put on ice. And the thing that was determined was the individual petitions or complaints to the district committee, which was so decided. So in each instance, the tenets of natural justice was followed. And sometimes, that is why sometimes, without being a lawyer, people refer to the original jurisdiction, for example, of the Supreme Court. Nobody can foresee all gamut of human activity that can be addressed by a constitution. This is a political party. It's a friendly society, sort of. We have to move on. And it's not governed by... There's the spirit, of course, and there's the letter of the constitution. And we must make sure we go. For example, today, we are told that a writ has been issued. Now, Chief, can you really understand that a political party will stop its steering committee, which is charged with the day-to-day running of the party as per the constitution? You don't meet. Then the national executive, which is also charged with the responsibility, will not meet. Then the national council will also not meet. Now, what are you trying to do? Kill the party or something? So then, therefore, any judge looking at the situation would have to, and the wider interest of those members of the party has to take place. And the natural justice must also, you cannot immobilize a whole political party for all these sort of things that we are doing. I think that there are issues within the family and we have modes and modalities for resolving it. The next step of that situation is completely available within the next 21 days. Why don't we exhaust that?
Okay.
Before we jump to the Supreme Court, High Court, or whatever court we are going to. All this are these calculated to stop our forward march or something? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Mr. Oswajima, quickly, let's wrap up our conversation on this. Now, let me tie in two questions in one. For instance, how urgent is a meeting to suspend a chairman such that if he or she cannot be reached, that decision has to be taken, and the fact that the next person in command can preside over a meeting that is supposed to announce the removal of the very person he sees as a boss. Legally, it doesn't sound well.
Right. This is a subjective issue. In the view of the people, in the view of the committee that sat, in the view of the members of the National Executive Committee, there was some urgency. For example, we are saying that we are not very comfortable. In fact, I think I would personally reject the composition, for example, of the committee of the EC, which is supposed to sit on Thursday, this Thursday and Friday. And there are other issues, and then we have not met for the longest while. And so, therefore, we believe that if it's part of the whole situation, we as a political, we will be derelict of our responsibilities as members of the National Executive Committee if we did not take action to make sure that the party is not put in a state of paralysis. And so, therefore, the question that you ask really, I think, is aptly answered by the exigencies of the situation. And that's what is important. And we must learn as players in the political field to understand that if an issue comes, it can be resolved internally, or sometimes we must say that if I am the cause of this problem, then let us see the way forward. And sometimes we have to be Solomonic in the things that we do. And I believe that the forward march of this party was in a way difficult to do. So when he called me, I said, okay, I will make my views known and correct some sort of inconsistencies and misinformation that have been put out there. I mean, you sometimes ask yourself whether if you are deeply in love with this party, and some of us have been in it for more than over 75, almost 60, 70 years. And is this what we intended it to be? For example, our constitution has some deficiencies. We must be democratic and in consonance with the national constitution. In the national constitution, 15% of the members of parliament can oblige the speaker to convene. He says the speaker shall, 15%. But in our constitution, it's silent on when the chairman can call a meeting or will not. So in that instance, if you went to Enel and say that I want to make sure that this meeting is called, I'm sure that by original jurisdiction, they may say, okay, 15%. At least if it's silent, we can go by the national constitution because ours is a subset of the national constitution.
All right. Mr. Oswald,
you understand? Right?
I do. But finally, before I let you go, a viewer just put it this. Now, he says that during the District Assembly elections, a fisherman in Winneba asked the whole country to wait until his case is heard before we could go on and vote. Why couldn't the NPP do so?
You see, I think here again, the comparison is not the same. Apples and pears are not the same. He was stopping the election nationwide, not to favor a particular faction or not. The electoral, the district assembly elections are non-partisan. They are not political. They are individuals, so nationwide. And here is a situation where we have a battle to go to, an election to win, our forward march, and if you cannot meet as a steering committee, if you cannot meet as a national executive, if you cannot meet as a national council, and believe me, the national conference only once a year, and then what it means? It means you are going to comatose. So the two things are not the same. And so if you want to be, ours is a friendly society. It's not NPP incorporated, and so therefore we should try as much as possible to accommodate each other and understand each other. At the end of the day, we have all come together because we have a binding common basis for being together as members of the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition. And that we must never lose sight of it. If we lose sight of it, then we would have gone astray. Okay. And so, Chief Bright, I want to make the point
go ahead.
That the spirit of any constitution, there are countries even without constitution. UK, all they have is the Magna Carta of 1215. And yet still, they move ahead. And by consensus, by precedents, by what we have done before, we did it. I have been in the party administration maybe longer than anybody else.
Okay.
I was treasurer for almost 10 years.
Okay.
And chairman of the finance committee, fundraising committee, about 16 years. And because there was a friendly relationship amongst us, it was never, these things were never an issue.
Okay.
Why should they become an issues now?
Mr.
Say that we are sort of, somebody wants to bind us, bind our hands, bind our legs, and then how were we? How was what do you call it, the committee, the steering committee, how were they going to be able to decide whether we participate in the EC forum, which is very important, in the day after tomorrow or not?
Mr.
So we have to find a way of going out.
Pardon me,
and that's the way forward.
Pardon me, I have to cut in. The team that is in court, the three members who are in court are saying that if tomorrow the party decides to listen to them and agree to resolve this matter out of court, they will go ahead and get the court to suspend whatever it has to do and give them the opportunity to talk to the party. Should the party grab this opportunity?
But, Bright, this is laughable. If they wanted us to settle out of court, why didn't they come to see the party first? Why do you go to court first? So that we have a sort of Damocles hanging over your head?
So the party won't grab the opportunity?
Please, give me a second.
Okay,
Bright,
please
give me a second.
Please go ahead.
I've come to them and say, listen, let us talk. And then they talk. But you don't go to court, attempt to get an injunction, this on notice, and then say that if you talk, then we don't talk under duress. I have been engaged in a lot of negotiations. Cote d'Ivoire, I was the one who chaired the first meeting which got a ceasefire. You don't operate that way. That is not the way to go. We all know crisis management. We all know peace management and peace keep brokering, and that's not the way to go.
Okay.
If you go, then let us put the interest of the party first and foremost, and then our personal interests will be subsumed by the wider interest so that we move forward.
Okay. Mr. Osajman, I'm grateful for your time tonight. And have a good night. He is a member of the National Executive Committee, Mr. Hakim Uswajman, and elder of the party. Martin, let's wrap up this conversation. And so you heard him. I don't need to say more. Perhaps the party isn't ready to resolve this issue out of court. And it means that you guys are going ahead with the court issue?
Oh, yes. In that case, so while the door is still open, I think your question is very commendable. That is what they should be looking at, that we should settle this matter out of court. And so we are ever ready, and we think that they should think about it well. That will help their party far better than us staying in court. Because, you see, the plaintiffs case is cast in stone. Because you see, Bright, let me tell you, the disciplinary proceedings were a sham. It means that they just didn't go according to due process. Will you believe that this matter is telling you that Mr. Okwe, Professor Okwe and Madam Amabuzia, the first case from Council of Elders was thrown out? Will you believe that as council, when we appeared for Mr. Afuku, till date, we've not been told that that case was thrown out? There is no ruling. As we sit here, we have not received the report of the committee. Neither has Mr. Afuku received one. And the committee work was so egregious. You know what? Look, when we went, the first thing we did, just briefly, one sentence.
I'm sorry we have to wrap up this. Yes. Just one sentence.
One sentence is that they failed to rule on the preliminary objections. And in law, if you don't rule on it, you can't do anything. So to the extent that they jumped that objection and said they have a report, the report is null and void.
Martin, I'm grateful for your time tonight.
Great.
Martin Piku is a lawyer for the counsel for the three members of the party in court.